So let's start by doing introductions, I guess. If you want to start, Dr. Kamau, we can go that way.
Okay, my name is OBDK Kamau. I have been resident of Houston twice. I was here from 79 to, I guess, the late 80s. And I came back in 2000 and...
2000 what?
2000.
2000?
No, 1999. So I was not here for much of Houston's roiling politics, but I, have looked and spoken with people who were involved in it, and so I'm here to supplement.
Okay.
My name is Sandra. At the time it was Brown. It's Netter now. I've never left Houston legally. No, I was in the city's belly of the political battles with Carl Hampton and everything that was going on in the city. It was a beautiful time in the world. Everybody's reaching for something, reaching for justice and peace and equality. And around about when I was with Carl People's Party too. For a while after Carl's death, I had to leave, and I had to leave the city for a while.
Yeah, my name is John Creer, and my comrades call me Bunchy. I joined People's Party 2 in 1971, and we later became Houston Chapter of the Black Panther Party, and I later transferred to Oakland and worked out of central headquarters of the Black Panther Party in Oakland.
Hi everybody, I'm Gloria Ruback. I moved to Houston in 1968 and have been involved in activities every day since then. I joined Workers' World Party, which is I'm still in, because of the murder of Carl Hampton, and I'll talk about that later. But I'm an activist around everything from the environment to abolishing police to fighting U.S. imperialism all over the world.
So can we start with talking about the TSU-5?
The TSU-5, and it's something, there was, in the 67, in 1967, not only in Houston, but across the country, many people don't believe that things were as chaotic in Houston as they were in several other places because of how Houston was integrated. But the TSU-5 were a group of students who were, several of them were killed by the police on Texas Southern University's campus. And they were, of course, fighting for social justice for students and black people, not only in the Third Ward area, but for people, period. And they were, it was just another in the long line of police killings that have occurred. And one of the interesting things about it was the president of Texas Southern University at that time, whose name I'm really having trouble bringing up, the science building is named after him, was a progressive black college president. Many of the presidents of black colleges at that time tried to keep social movements off the campus, and he permitted them to happen. And of course the police came on and do, unfortunately, what they often do. So there were some things that happened as a result of it. Wheeler Street was closed down and things like that. And many of those students were involved with struggle at the University of Houston and with the People's Party too, etc.
Does anyone have anything to add?
I remember going to San Jacinto High School doing that, and every day, I know Bobby Caldwell was the attorney, and he was so awesome. and we were young. I mean, I was like what, 15, 16, and in order for me to go, I had to sneak out on recess, and they would march down to Sandy Center every day. The trial lasted like a week. Didn't it last a week or so?
Yeah.
It lasted a week. And I mean, every time you look up, the crowd was just thick, and people were leaving school. As a matter of fact, I got branded from going to school in Texas for a year behind that, because I would sneak out of school just to walk with them to go see the trial. That's how important it was for us back then. You know, because it was just terrible in those days, social justice and equality and police brutality. So that was a big deal. So yeah, they marched every day for like 7 days down Sandy Center.
What happened to you at school?
They banned me from going to school in Texas again.
Wow.
From that, when they found out I was marching with them, I had to go to school in Arkansas.
Good Lord.
It was terrible.
Was there a lot of students that were marching?
Yeah, we had like a black coalition deal. Yeah.
How many students did that happen to? Was there?
Well, I know it happened to me. I don't know if it happened to too many or more. It wasn't a group.
Yeah.
They just called us by like your mom and your dad brought you to class. And it's not like I was failing. I was an A student.
Yeah, but they just.
They just sent me to another school. I couldn't go to school in Texas anymore. Behind that. That's how bad times were then.
Yeah, one of the things too, the police shot up the dorms at University of Houston, and they said that the students had opened fire on them, but they never found a weapon inside the dorms. But
At TSU, you mean?
yeah, that's what the whole thing was. Yeah, they shot the dorms up. They shot over probably 1,000 rounds into the dormitory.
There were two students that were killed, right?
Yes,
There were two students,
Yeah.
and they of course tried to say that the students had fired at the police.
Yeah, they called it the TSU riots, but it wasn't a riot. It was an assault. You know, by the police, yeah.
You used to be able to see the bullet holes on the dorms. I'm sure that's gone.
Oh,
Yeah, it's gone.
Wow.
So.
Does anyone have anything to add?
Those were just typical times. There wasn't one thing going on, it was another.
So can you talk about like the formation of People's Party 2? And even explain for those who don't know why it's called People's Party 2 and not Black Panthers?
Well, when I started with the co-people. I wasn't in the very beginning, but my cousin who was, and James Aaron, who was the co-chairman of People's Party 2, along with Carl, who of course you know was the chairman. I was inducted in maybe a year later or something like that. And I think the reason why they call it People's Party 2 is because Carl had visited Oakland and considered the Panther Party as People's Party 1. And so he decided to say, well, you know, Panther Party is People's Party 1, we're People's Party 2. This is what I got.
Yeah, well, see, Carl was a musician, very talented musician. And the band he was in, they were touring the country. And when he got to Oakland, he did community work with the Black Panther Party in Oakland. So when he's ready to come back to Houston, he wanted to start a chapter of the party in Houston. But at that time, the party had exploded and expanded so fast that half the people, they didn't know who was who, so they didn't want to start a chapter. So Carl was determined. So he came back to Houston. He got him a job at the Sears over on Sandy Center and Wheeler, which they're getting ready to close. But he got him a job over there washing dishes. They used to have a lunch counter in there. He got a job washing dishes there to make money to start a party. So he, as Sandy was saying, since he couldn't call it the Black Panther Party, and he considered the Black Panther Party the vanguard of the revolution and the #1 People's Party, he called it People's Party 2. And like I say, he saved money, enough money to open up an office on McGowan. Many of the brothers that joined the organization Carl was from, it's like a black suburb called Pleasantville, which is out I-10. So she mentioned James Aaron, who was from Pleasantville. Her cousin Claude Frost was from Clinton Park, which is right by Pleasantville. So many of the people that, you know, because as James told me, Carl would, even in the neighborhood, Carl would speak all the time to the, the people and the brothers and tell them we need to get together and we need to, organize. So that's the reason he called it People's Party 2, and that's how it was put together. And they sold a Black Panther Party newspaper. Even though it wasn't a Black Panther Party, they sold a Black Panther Party newspaper. They followed the 10-point platform and program of the Black Panther Party and all the rules and regulations of the Black Panther Party. And even on the sign, it said People's Party 2, but you had Panthers on both sides of the sign.
Now, wasn't there like a time period they were supposed to do that and kind of prove themselves to the brothers and sisters in Oakland, and then they could perhaps become a chapter?
They didn't become a chapter till Carl was killed. They was dead, but they did become a chapter.
In 1971, August of 1971, myself, Charles Freeman, who goes by Boko, Johnny Shotgun Howard, Harry Taylor, we all went up to Oakland and asked to become, that was in August of 1971, to become a full-fledged chapter. And so we were there in Oakland for a couple of days. Johnny Coward, we called him Shotgun, he in fact, he got his heel, the night that they killed Carl, Johnny Coward got his heel shot off. And his story is interesting too, in the fact that before he joined the People's Party 2, he was like a pimp, drug dealer, young. He was like 17, a little young. You might say, hustler. Mm-hmm. And the police had picked him up and took him downtown. They accused him of being a member of the Black Panther Party, which he kept telling me he wasn't. Well, they handcuffed him to a chair and they were beating on him, and one of them kicked him and the chair fell over. And so they went to kick him again. They kicked his eye out. And so they took him. Once they kicked his eye out, they just took him back to Third Ward and just threw him out the car. So he later became a member of the Black Panther Party. That's one thing oppression breeds, is resistance. So I remember it was a cartoon in the newspaper. This political cartoonist, he had a professor up at the board, and it said police brutality, poverty, and oppression equals Black Panther Party. So yeah.
And then Johnny, after Carl was murdered, Johnny was shot and a white guy was shot, Marty Hale. And Johnny and Marty were both charged with attempted murder of a police officer for being shot.
Well, before all the drastic stuff, I want to insert this. Before all the killings and the drastic stuff. Well, Carl, when he got the building down there on Dowling, we got another building on Isabella. And normally the building on Isabella, we would have meetings with other grassroots organizations like JBRL, John Brown Revolutionaries, Mayo, Mexican Youth Organization Movement, and it was another one, Young Patriots, I think that's what it was. And we would have meetings and seeing what's going on in their neighborhoods, and they would see what was going on in our neighborhoods, and we would have like rallies, to make money, sell paper, and if they have problems going on in their neighborhood, like with police brutality, we would go help them have rallies. And they would come over and stand for it. As a matter of fact, the man that got shot the night Carl got killed was JBRL, wasn't it? Yeah. Because John Brown Revolutionary. Because we would all align with each other, helping each other's community. So it was really a good thing, And then he would be a person that he took out ads and speeches, put speeches to communicate with the community in a newspaper called Space City. Wasn't it Space City News?
Space City News.
As a matter of fact, he would put his speeches in there to communicate to the people. He loved the people, loved how, the community and everybody was getting along. Like, he implemented free clothing programs, food programs. As a matter of fact, the church that they killed him off of, he was the first preacher that denied the free food program. I know it got off the ground later on. And often, like Ovi Duncan Tail, he lived on Isabella. Then one day, Mickey Leland came to the office on Dowling, introducing, he had a thing called Operation Breadbasket, asking Carl to help him with that, and Carl did. Well, Carl never did deny anything that was to help the community and help the people. So yeah, he got off into that with Mickey Leland, and I took notes with them back there. So they kind of like made it happen. I don't know if they went through shape. I don't know who they went through, but he made it happen. But a lot of things he had on the table, he really didn't get a chance to do before he died. But I think after a bunch of them come through the picture, you know, the whole things was laid out. And they already knew about it because they was in Oakland. He was already a part of the Panthers and knew how everything went. And it was like easy for them to just move on with it. But Carl really loved the people and loved protecting the community and teaching the community. That's one thing I really could say about him.
And you know, after, during this period where John Brown and Mayo, the Mexican American Youth Organization, and the Panthers worked together,
Yeah.
we called ourselves the Rainbow Coalition.
Yeah.
And
I remember
somehow I wound up with the banner at my house. I don't know who made it. And when I got a divorce, that SOB took it. I was really pissed because he's not an activist. And turned out to be a nut. But anyway, I didn't know you were Claude Frost's cousin.
Yeah.
Oh, girl.
He the one got me in there. As a matter of fact, I was the first lady. And then there was another lady that called, I guess he was having an affair with. I thought it was his wife, Maggie, and he had a child for her. We were like the only two at the time. And then I think Maggie was in the hospital and met up with another sister in the party with me now, Ruby. I think they met in the hospital. Well, I did not know Ruby because by the time I got back here to Texas, they had pulled in all the parties, and I thought they was just over with. And I had already had dealings with the COINTELPRO, telling they gonna slap me in my mouth. And I know doggone well we was studying out a book called Red Book, and you know, constructive criticism was the thing. You don't talk to us like that, you know. So him and all the people that was taking over after Carl got killed kind of frightened me. That's how David Hilliard them called me and Maggie to come to Oakland. That's how I left Houston. So when I was down there, I learned a lot, and I saw just how extravagant the Panthers were from us. I mean, they were really on time, you know, and it really just kicked my little soul up a little bit better. Because, yeah, so that's what happened.
Can you talk more about being one of the first women, or one of the few women, is how you're putting it, in the Panthers from the beginning?
Yeah, but he didn't treat us no different. He taught us the Red Book. We sold papers when we did start selling papers, and we wasn't really settled in. You know, we would all go home and come back. We would all go home and come back. Then we got a building, you know, and then we all put in to eat and stuff like that. It was just like family.
Community.
Yeah, community. It was really, really nice. And fought for justice. He had
Can you
rallies.
say the name of the paper again? I'm sorry.
Space City News. He would put auditions in there for his speeches and talk to the community, you know, relate to the community through that.
Yeah, it was located over in Montrose, Space City. Which, you know, most of the progressive stuff was in Montrose during that time.
Before the yuppies.
Yeah, I mean, you go on, it was at Fairview, they had all kind of like bookstores and all kinds of
Space City
progressive
was
stuff.
on Wichita Street. And in the 60s, all over the country, these underground newspapers is what they were called, popped up all over the country. I was in Oklahoma. We even had one called The Different Drummer. And I was a journalism minor. And I spent more time working on The Different Drummer than I did on our school paper because I thought the school paper was pretty irrelevant. So Space City was one of those. And the Klan, I was actually in the Space City office one day when the Klan came by and threw something in, but it didn't go off. But they were always after Space City News.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Can you talk more about the programs before the assassination of Carl Hampton, so that we can have an idea of how it was different after his assassination?
Well, he was in the process of implementing a lot of programs. He got a lot out there, but I can't tell you, but comparing to what they did, evidently it was kind of like on a larger scale. But he was really just getting straightened out, trying to get the money, trying to keep up everything. But we did rallies and gave boxes of fruit out and food and clothing when we could, and he spoke to them, educated the community about it was legal to carry guns. I think what it is, it's one of the, on the Constitution, they're telling you, is it the second one? The Second Amendment, yeah. It's, you have the right to bear arms. In other words, he was just educating the community, telling them, trying to get them out of the hustling mode and, to help themselves up instead of, being in the same situation they in. He was just a community guy. Yeah, loved his people. And not only black people, loved all oppressed people. That was the key. All oppressed people. It wasn't a racist organization at all.
Yeah, that's one of the things that so many people have a misconception about. Even black people. I remember I was talking to a friend of mine. He was talking about something about white people. So you ought to know you was in the Black Panther Party. So wait a minute, we wasn't. We were for all oppressed people. We said, and all the members of the party or people party who was black, we said that we had to organize our community first before we could help anybody else. So we said black people in particular and all oppressed people.
Right.
That we were, but when Carl was killed, it really was like she was saying, it was in the infant stage, and they were trying to get a lot of stuff off the ground. But one thing being in the South, and especially Houston at that time had the biggest Klan organization in the country. I was telling Gloria was mentioning about this picture. They had a picture of this Houston police officer getting out of his police car with a hood on, Klan hood on. And they had that on front of the LA Times. The LA Times did a series on it about how big the Klan was in Houston. So, men of the police, that's they were Klan members. So, and that's one of the reasons, because really if you look at the South period, none of your major riots really were in the South. And Detroit, California, Watts and all that kind of stuff. But because in the South, the oppression was just real.
The oppression was just so thick.
Yeah, where you stand. You know where you stand in the South. They don't. Like in California, it's racism, but it's a different type. They stab you in the back. Here,
they stab you in the front.
You know where they stand. So.
About being a woman, when you ask that question, I'm gonna tell you something. It's funny. It's funny though, really. Carl had moved into some apartments, and he had political education meetings. This particular time, he had about 2 or 3 little guys in there. Oh, he was just so upset. So we were sitting there looking at him, and he said, "Well, I just wish somebody else would come into these meetings. I wish I had more people I could teach." So me and Maggie got up. It was on the lower end, and I swear to you, it was on the lower end of Dowling. That's where all the hookers hang out. So me and Maggie went down there to the lower end of Dowling and just stood up. Boy, we reeled in the souls. You hear me? When we reeled in the souls and we took them into the rooms where they thought they was going to get something, but they got something else. I swear before the good Lord. I mean, before the night was over, he had a room full of souls in there. But they appreciated it. And that's just how we had to do it. That's part of the dedication to teach your people, to grab your people from where they are. So that was really was dedication. It was not about nothing but getting these people out from out here and give them some education. And did not no one of them complain. Not no one of them complained. I put my hand on a stack of Bibles on that one. That's the only way we got them souls that day.
Well,
and it worked.
You were talking about the Panthers, well, the Panthers were internationalists.
Yeah.
But when I got married in, I don't know what year it was, 1970 something, I don't know. We had people come over and we had a keg of beer and we barbecued cabrito in the backyard and crabs. Oh, somebody had gone and caught a bunch of crabs. But the Panthers came to our wedding. We'd just gone to the courthouse and got a piece of paper. And the gifts that they brought us were wrapped in the Black Panther Party newspaper. And I remember my family was sitting over there like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on?
So what kind of gifts did they bring?
Huh?
What kind of gifts did they bring?
Regular, like a set
Regular
of towels or sheets,
okay,
or I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but it was just funny because it was wrapped in the Black Panther
Yeah.
Party newspaper. And my little brother goes, oh, you really do know those people.
You got some cool points, huh?
Right.
The Panthers, they wasn't like now. They are being, oh, they're just so great. They just did this and for the people. You know, people was actually against the Panthers back then.
Mm-hmm.
You walk on the street, you started to get your head shot off. Right now, they just so wonderful. I mean, it trips me out really. They just so wonderful. They did all this for the community. They did all that for we're going to give them money. We're going to do this and we're going to do that. When they was trying to kill all of us just 50 years ago, you know?
And literally, it's 50 years ago in 2016, they celebrated the 50th year anniversary of Black Power. And I think that's 50 years after Kwame Ture came up with the phrase at a rally in Mississippi. So in 2016, there was and I'll send you the link so you can send it out. There was a discussion about it at Shape Center where they brought some people in from DC and San Antonio, because that's at first I thought you were the sister from San Antonio. And they're going to house this archives at Duke University. So that's which some of the things that universities should be doing. So that's one of the things. I'll send you the link so you can send it out to people. But even with all the discussion they had that day, and it was a pretty relatively full house, those kind of stories, the kind of stories that you all were telling, are missing. And they are romanticized. King is romanticized. And when there was a time when he would be coming down the street and all the people who said they were there would turn and go in another direction because they didn't want to be associated with it.
That's right.
And there were real sociological reasons why violence, quote unquote, broke out in the North and the East and the West, and the South had to deal with nonviolence and peaceful protests and put up with the kind of abuse that they had to deal with, just because of the political climate, the different political climates that existed in the different regions. Also, the cities in the North were hot boxes because there were a lot of people there who couldn't get jobs or who got very poor paying jobs. Then I lived in Detroit in the 60s. The police, you drive down the wrong street, people throwing pop bottles and rocks at your car and bricks. The police weren't our friends. And we weren't the police's friends either. So it was a different situation.
Yeah.
But that's why it broke out. The movement, the face of the movement was different in the regions, but everybody was working toward, trying to break the chains that was so prevalent then and are prevalent now, just not as visible all the time.
Because I think blacks was making, and people of color were making 65% less
That's better, right?
of their money in the 60s and the 70s of the white man.
And it was legal.
And it wasn't just blacks; it was all of us.
It was legal to pay people. School teachers, black school teachers, made less than white school teachers.
That was just
That's just the way it was. It was legal for you the discrimination was very real and extended into like every area of your life.
And then after 1964, when integration came.
Yeah.
The way they integrated schools in Houston, they decided all the Mexicans